brokers like Celsius, they took a bunch of customer crypto deposits and they lent them out to the other side to counterparties. And one of those big counterparties was 3AC, who looks like they're just unable to repay like pretty much everyone. It's not quite clear what they did, but it's apparent that they just got irresponsibly long on using these centralized lenders' money. And so now these centralized institutions owe a bunch of people their deposits back, but the loans that they lent out to 3AC and others are bad debt and they can't pay them back. And so they're like, oh God, now we're in a really tough spot. We owe a lot of people money and we can't pay them. We don't have the assets. And so I think for me, the big takeaway here is like, the old adage still stands, like not your keys, not your coins, right? If you don't have autonomy, if you don't have self-sovereignty, if you can't access your funds and your NFTs directly, then you're trusting someone else. And trust works up until the point it doesn't, right? Celsius works up until the point it doesn't. Voyager works up until the point it doesn't. When you give someone your assets, you really don't know what they're doing with it in the background. Now, I think it's important to note that's not true in DeFi, right? In DeFi, you can just go to the Dune Analytics dashboard. You can read the contracts, and you can actually see with full transparency what's going on. Not to say that like some of those protocols don't fail, but at least you can see transparently. They're not like turning to some guy in Singapore and being like, hey, we're going to lend you $2 billion using our customer deposits. So I think, the lesson still holds, make sure you really own your NFTs.
Yeah, I think the retail investor is wondering if this is all over, right? If this is this, well, there was a lot of doom and gloom in the last 2 weeks here. BlockFi was rumored to be going through some of the same things. So, in your opinion, do we still have more to go? Maybe not in the broader markets, but in this micro event of these companies completely like collapsing and it leading to some sort of death spiral. Has that spiral stopped, or do we still have more to go? In your opinion?
Yeah, it's super unclear. I think the spiral really I'm not sure if it's much of a spiral. It's just that these organizations were not able to pay back their retail investors. They were like, hey, trust me with your money. And then they really mismanaged the risk. They really mismanaged user funds, which is not a good look. It's not a good look for them. But I'm not, other than 3AC potentially borrowing from multiple of these entities, it doesn't seem to me like there's a huge amount of systemic contagion, because it wouldn't even make sense for them to liquidate crypto funds right now to repay customers, because many of them are so deep underwater. They're gonna have to go through a multi-year long bankruptcy process or restructuring process to be like, okay, how do we dole out these funds, right? Anyone who was able to withdraw before, Celsius and Babel, for instance, like paused withdrawals, they got, full restitution essentially. Like they got dollar for dollar what they put in, because if you just pull out, you pulled out. Well, what happens to the people who are stuck inside, right? They get zero. And so I think this is going to be a years long restructuring bankruptcy process. It's going to be studied in business schools and law schools about like, how crypto and the real world like interact in this way. But it seems for now that like the type of forced selling that you saw with like Luna, that seems to maybe be over for the time being. And again, who knows? Maybe there's a whole bunch more hidden leverage in the system, and there's another really big Luna or Celsius who are going to be forced into a bad margin call position. But I don't know. For now, it seems like we're at a good stopping point.